Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Raising Unmanageables. Episode, I don't know by this point. I think it's around 78, but we're not sure. We actually made a pact that we're not even going to say it anymore, so I don't even think we have to worry about it. Anyway, I'm Bevo,
And I'm Robert Rostick.
and
Yes, I am Robert Rostick.
we are ready to go. And I'm glad. Robert Rostick, how's your nervousness? Is it coming down now? Or?
Nervousness, it's about the same.
About the same?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, it's a very good day for me right now because a lot of interesting thoughts have been happening since the last few weeks. A lot of things we've talked about with regard to unmanageables. A lot of things that didn't even dawn on me until we had the conversation last week. And I always kind of leave this studio with saying that I learn a lot from every situation, and I say that because it's absolutely true. So, with that in mind, it took me back to some of the things that we talked about last week, which was regard to leadership, and making sure you communicate, and me feeling like I needed to do more to keep other people happy, but in doing that, I wasn't articulating what I actually want to have done or see, because I didn't really know that everybody was showing up to help me. I thought I was showing up because of everybody else, right? So with that understanding, I took that into consideration. I said, so what's the best approach for us to move forward with unmanageables? And I think all of this, the answer to me is to get back to what the core of why we even started unmanageables in the first place, and why we started even working on this platform in the first place, you and I together. Which was to get back to almost resetting a little bit and getting back to us as creatives, talking to other creatives, and showing them how to start where they are, whether that be creating content to promote themselves or to brand themselves, even thinking about branding themselves, but using where they are in their process and then working from that point. So what that means is it's turning all this into less of I'm an expert because I've been doing this long, and you're an expert because you've been doing this long. Essentially, we're both teachers. Right? And making this environment, and when I say this environment, be it in this classroom and in your studio or outside of this space, Unmanageables is a learning space. And what I would like, we started some of this last year, but we didn't really do it consistently, was to bring other creatives in to have conversations with us and to kind of teach us what they know so that we can help make a platform for them as well as they kind of go out into the world and to start pushing into ideas that they're thinking about doing for themselves. So that's my big kind of just revelation of how to accept that leadership role.
You are a leader, man, regardless of whether you want to or not. You created Unmanageables. You created Beach and Main. You've worked through all of the process of putting that together, failing, as you mentioned, failing forward, meaning that as you fail, you learn something, you grow from it, not failing to be defeated, which is a different sort of failure. You've done those things. And then you brought together people in this environment to create this talk, this platform for sharing. You've done all of that. So you've led. The only difference is between what I think you're mentioning about your leadership and leadership style and the actuality is that none of us know what's going to work or not work.
Right.
None of us. I don't care how long you've been in business. What we do know is a formula that did work. And then as we push forward, we find out that things don't. So we realign, reposition, rethink, retool, and then hope from that point to figure out whether it will or will not work. And the only way anything will work, I don't care how much um, knowledge you have about it, how much experience you have in it, if you don't have the audience to receive it,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't gonna work.
Right. Right.
And that's what it boils down to. It's
Right.
not gonna work.
And that was one of the biggest things too. Is we have a little audience, and what's the best way to serve them? Is the best way to serve them us talking about what we know, or tapping into what they actually want to know about, and then providing that from that perspective.
I start from the point of self.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am. The guy named James Long in Atlanta used to say this. He used to say, "I'm going to go down to High Falls, and I'm going down there to shoot some pictures. Now, if you want to go, come along. If you don't want to go, fine. No matter what, I'm going."
Right.
That's what he said. I'm going.
Right.
And so when you decided to say, "Hey, look, that sounds like a good venture for me," and someone's there to lead it,
Mm-hmm.
then you jump on board.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of us did. We jump on board, just as you mentioned, starting this whole deal. So about unmanageables. So the question is not how do you serve the people. No, it's not about serving them. It's about educating them as to where it is that you're taking them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It boils down to. Because if you cater to your audience in a sense that your audience dictate, you are going to remain stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
Because half of your audience is going to want one thing, the other half is going to want something else. And when you split, you don't move.
Right.
But whenever you decide what works best for unmanageables, what works best for Beach and Main, then, as James mentioned, you jump on board.
Yeah.
And you decide, hey, look, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I want to learn from that.
Right.
And I think that's where our audience can grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it can. But because it says, okay, these guys, they know something, and I want something. And if they know it and I want it, all I got to do is tune in.
Right.
That's it. Tune in and see what happens. And from tuning in, I'm going to learn something.
Right.
No matter what, as you mentioned, I'm always going to learn something. I'm going to learn what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look around and see what they are doing and say, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way you get to know that is by tuning in.
Right.
By observing, about seeing. And then the final thing you have to do is you have to do.
Yeah.
So back to your serving the audience, the best way, there is no best way. There's only the direction that you, Brian Volaton, Beach and Main, Unmanageables, get to carry your audience.
And that's what I put a lot of thought into, especially after last week. Mason and I, we've been working hard this month to kind of shape everything up for Beach and Main to where it's ready to receive clients in a certain way. So doing the work that I want to do with those clients, and then setting other things up to where other people can come in and work with us if for their part of the job with that client, right? So Mason's helped me put together just processes and where are things going when we start to create content for the brand. Where is it all going to go? What kind of content is going to go Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and what is it all going to be talking about? And why are people going to show up for it, right? So when we put all that thought process into Beach and Main, it made it very clear to me that the road from Unmanageables to Beach and Main is from a learning standpoint, setting the stage where people are learning more about themselves and how to implement the things that they want to do just to get started. So it's from a wherever you are standpoint. Where are you right now? Whether you're working a job, you got fired from a job, you've never had a job, and you want to start implementing that more of that creative side to your life. Where are you now? This is how to get started, right? We went back and looked at a couple of old episodes and old talks, and those conversations were really, I liked those conversations a lot because it was really about where we came from and things that we were doing to learn about this whole process. And as you mentioned before, we started where we were.
Yeah, sure. You
right?
always
And
start where
then
you are.
right, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's that need sometimes to grow,
Uh-huh.
right? And what I've learned is that need to grow was bigger than the preparation to grow had been, right? So being able to grow from this point where we are, it would take more equipment and more things. And that put me in this place of kind of anxiety because all I really wanted to do is keep doing this, keep providing the content that I think is interesting to people or I think people may need to know about, and do it in this way that's simple enough for them to start
Mm-hmm.
themselves. You know, this whole setup, the way we have everything set up here, all of this is inside of your studio and you have more equipment than most people have.
Sure.
A lot of the stuff that's here, people can obtain very simply, or you probably already have it in your house to start with, and that's the whole point.
Look, when I was born and I came out of my mother's womb, I didn't have a light stand in my hand.
Mm-mm.
I didn't have a flash unit, sitting on a pole. I
Right.
had none of that. I did just like anybody else.
Right.
And when I opened up this studio, I started just like any and everybody else who was not born with the silver spoon in their mouth. I started, as they say, Paquito, little by little,
Mm-hmm.
little by little,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna make something analogous to a path. I want to go somewhere,
Right.
and I've never been
Mhm.
there. I don't know how to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk toward where I think something is.
Mm-hmm.
And in that walking, as I go back and forth, I'm going to create a small path.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I let people in on what I'm doing, the more I look behind me, more people are going to walk on that same path because they want to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I then become the leader of that in that walk. And as I go back and forth to that path, that path gets a little wider because more people are walking on it now.
Mm-hmm.
And as it grows, what happens is we create a road.
Right. Yeah.
Once we get to that destination, and hang with me right on this one.
No, I
Once
feel
we
it.
get to that destination, we set up shop.
Mm-hmm.
And once we set up shop, we all have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order for me to get more people to that, I have to provide more ways of getting there.
Right.
Now I have a road. So on that road, I'm going to now start building a train track on the side of that.
And that's where I am right now.
I'm going to build that train track. And not only am I going to build the train track, and as more people start to come, I'm going to contract with a helicopter company
Right.
or airlines
Right.
in order to get more people there.
Right.
And then I'm gonna buy into segways and make a little walk paths so that
Right.
more people can come.
Right.
But I can't do that one iota if I don't lead.
Right. And thank you for coming back to that, because the part that I learned the most from, and I know I had to get my ego out of the way of, and that was stopping me from creating more pathways back to this, was I was really concerned with your response and how you were going to perceive it, and if you were going to want to be on board with it and do the things that I want to do, even though those things did not have anything to do with your daily process in your business. And I know you have a business to run, and some of the things that I want to do take place while you're at business, right? And so those thoughts got into me because I was like, I can't do this the way I want to do this because Robert's not going to be able to do it with me, or he may not want to be able to do it with me. So I just created this story in my head of an outcome that wasn't even really there, right?
If you want to know my opinion of what you're saying right now, going along in the form of a business, is that, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, failure leads to these scenarios we draw in our head without communicating to the people that are involved.
Right.
And for that, we end up with an entire movie that is based on nothing about what the person that's supposed to receive it is ever even thinking. And I know it sounds convoluted. The point is this, is that if we are going to have somebody come along with us, no matter partner, friend, people we don't even know, if we're going to have them come along with us, and we don't talk to them, whatever it is that we're headed toward will fail.
Mm-hmm. And it was failing because it was slowing down progress for me, because I came into this whole scenario with, I need to be able to create so that I can draw, to get my ideas out, so that I can draw people into this whole structure, which is Beach and Main, so that I can make money for this thing and then grow that business. And then I had this thing called Unmanageables, which started as an idea, but turned into a way for us to be able to work together and to collaborate. And but there was a part of it, because in my mind, out of respect for you, I was like, well, I'm not gonna do these other things because this is already a thing that Robert and I started, and I hadn't communicated that to you. And when I did last week, that's where like all the weight kind of lifted off my shoulders, and I understood where I'm standing now.
Well, this sounds like a what do you call it, a truth session, but it's not. Here's what I want you to know.
You said a truth?
A truth session.
It is a truth session, because like last week really put in front of me what that I had to get my ego out of the way of this whole thing, right?
The path to Unmanageables was one path only.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Rostick, Brian Volaton, Mason Gehring getting together to work together in an environment.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
That was the goal.
Right.
That was the Taj Mahal at the end of the path. We got together. We worked together. We laughed, and we damn sure cried. I mean, we did. And we learned some things.
Yeah.
And we messed up some things.
We messed up a lot of things.
And we laughed again.
Right.
And we cried again.
Right.
But the goal was to work together. And guess what? We met the goal. And now it's time to say, okay, we met that goal. Now let's build onto the Taj Mahal.
Right.
Let's build this wing to do that.
Right.
Let's build that wing to do this. So, as far as truth is concerned, let's just start building.
Right. And that's what and Robert, like, that's what I didn't understand, right? That's what was standing in my way, right? Was wanting to build it, but thinking someone else would have an adverse or a contradictory thought to it, and that stopped me in my place. And it was very detrimental, because it had been slowing me down for a while, because I like to just go like, from an unmanageable standpoint, we have Unmanageables, we have Raising Unmanageables, then on Facebook we have Being Unmanageables. But all of it, Raising Unmanageables is Robert and Brian, right? Being Unmanageables doesn't necessarily, you don't have anything to do with that. And then the rest of Unmanageables you don't have anything to do with, but I was pending everything, all of my decisions about Unmanageables and how it correlates to Beach and Main on our relationship, and not wanting to step on that. And it was very exhausting. But I hadn't communicated that to you, and that's what was tearing me down about it. So my biggest thing that I learned from last week, that I had been doing over the last few months, was I hadn't communicated I hadn't communicated my feelings at that point, or my thoughts at that point, which is important to do as soon as possible.
Growth is a hard thing. And one of the things that I know that in this Taj Mahal, this castle, this place, this entity,
right,
is that there can be many rooms.
Right.
And Raising Unmanageables is the room that I'm in. Unmanageables is a different room.
Right.
The main table where we all eat dinner is Beach and Main.
Right.
Where we go in the back to chill out is TRG Studio.
Right.
But it's all
right
under Brian Volaton's vision. And so when I get tired of Brian Volaton, I go back to my Raising Unmanageable room. I go over here and I shut the door, and I wait until I'm called to come out to do my part. And I think that when people are starting out in any business or relationship, and I bring back the term relationship, because when you're starting out not by yourself, there is a relationship that has to be formed. And along the way, good or bad, ride or die, hell or high water, you got to talk to each other. And when you do, you keep moving forward. When you don't, that's when the path splits.
Yep. And that's what happened, and that's exactly what happened for me is and it gets to a dangerous place, because you really quickly, it hadn't our relationship, I know where our relationship stands. So it was easy for me to be like, I just need to talk to Robert because I'm probably thinking one way and he's going to give me advice a different way. But
I always do, by the way.
you always do, right? And that's the relationship we have. But if you're not careful with that, right, no matter how good it is, and you let time get in between that, then it makes it easier for, I guess the word I'm gonna use right now is animosity to set in, but that's not the right word. It's kind of resentment to settle in because now you feel like your progress is being slowed down because of somebody else when that wasn't the point, right? We have this thing, and this thing is Tuesday mornings, around this time.
We come in here and we
Right.
start a conversation.
And we start a conversation. Everything else around it is open for interpretation. So it just took a lot off my shoulders. But like I say, I learned a lot because these are conversations that, I'm just having in my head a lot of the times, or I express them to Mason, and
Just because I don't sleep with you does not mean you can't talk to me.
this is true. I understand.
All right.
I understand.
But if you want to,
Sleep with you?
no.
Oh no, I don't. We slept side by side in the car
Yeah,
once.
absolutely.
Remember that one
Absolutely.
time? We did sleep together one time.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, on a 3-day road trip to Las Vegas.
Yeah, we did sleep together.
Yeah,
I was talking about who I sleep with.
Yeah, we didn't even get a room either.
No,
we was
we
like,
didn't.
let's just do this in the car, man.
But that's the whole heart of it is that
Yeah.
People who communicate, good, bad, or indifferent, you always know where someone stands when you communicate.
Right.
And if I'm going to jump off of a train and I haven't talked to you, then that's going to build an animosity because you're expecting me to be there, and I'm thinking about jumping. But if I'm having that thought, I need to communicate. If I'm saying, "Hey, Bevo, I love where you're going," or "I hate where you're going," either way, we have that conversation.
Right.
And you get to decide as the leader, and I point that out as the leader, as to whether or not you're going to take what I say under advisement or move forward without me.
Right.
Either way, no matter what, the goal is always the end product. So you got to keep your eye on that.
Yes, and the important part about that is, sorry, I'm trying to turn my phone off, but the important part about that to remember is whenever you have something to express to somebody, whenever you have a thought that may lead to some deeper seated issues, you should address that as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible. That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
And that's a part of this whole thing is being a creative too. When you're working, whether it be by yourself or working on a team, as soon as other people get involved in your process and you have to work with other people, you shouldn't let too much time and too much space get in between your feelings and expressing those feelings to other people, because it will just lead to hatred and resentment.
It's not even just a team. Your client.
Right.
I had a client not call me. No one calls you anymore. They email or text.
Or text.
Yeah, or text you. And what they were concerned about was the turnaround time, because they had a deadline which was not communicated to me in the beginning. So when you don't tell me something, I let it go as long as I think it should go before it's released.
Right.
But what they did was they did send a text and said, they used the term, we're anxious to get started on this.
Right.
And so when I heard those words, I said, okay, they're communicating with me without having to pressure me.
Right.
So what I did at that point, I turned around and sent out an email saying, your work will be done by this particular day and time. Got back another email that says, perfect. But imagine had I not responded to that.
Right.
What would have happened?
Right.
I would have had a client to formulate an idea or an opinion about me that says that, hey, he does really good work. However, he's slow.
Right.
We can't say that now. You can say, hey, this guy does really good work and he communicates.
Right.
And when you communicate, as far as new clients coming in, people want to work with people who communicate.
Right. Right.
And even if the work is good, bad, or indifferent, not the work, but the words are good, bad, or indifferent, you need to communicate.
And speaking about communication, what I also learned was, if you don't know something to the core,
Mm-hmm.
it steps on your communication, and it steps on how you, because you don't understand it completely, right? And so the lack of communication, I think, is avoidance a lot of the time because you haven't figured out
Yeah.
how to say that thing right because you don't know it all the way to the core.
Mm-hmm.
And I even just take that back to just branding, even branding my own company, right? It was really hard because I hadn't done certain work to understand what it was that I'm actually doing and to understand the work that I'm doing. And now that we've done that work and I understand that completely now, it's very easy now to communicate that to people. And it's easier for other people to take it and to communicate it to other people as well now. So it's like word of mouth already, the business. So the more you know about yourself, the more you know about the topic that you're working with and the industry you're working in, the better you're going to be able to communicate that to people, and the better they're going to be able to communicate to other people how good of a job you did, that you know your stuff, that you respond on time, and you deliver a good product. So I know we're all over the board today right now.
I know, but just speaking on that particular deal is that the word creative means we're making something from essentially nothing.
Pretty much.
When you replicate something, that means it's already been created. So you're just doing, you're repairing or refining something. But the creative process is always a learning process.
Right.
And so no matter how much an expert I am at maybe doing a headshot or doing a studio type of shot, whenever you bring your project through the door, it is different from the project that left the door,
right.
2 days later.
Right.
2 days earlier. So what I have to do now is learn about you and learn about your expectation,
right.
which I don't know just yet. So in that learning process, in that creative process, we are still growing. Mistakes will be made.
Right.
But at the same time, if you as a creative, do not educate your client as to your process, and leave it up to what they expect it to be because of their last person that they dealt with, you are going to lose.
Right.
And that's going to foster a bad relationship.
Yep. Resentment.
The whole thing.
So
I for example, I don't want to just say something without example, is that I tell my clients, this is what's going to happen. A, B, C, D, and E. This is the roadmap that I've mapped out for this. And you're free to make changes in those in this map, but understand that this is the desired path.
Right.
If you want to take a different path, then please, by all means, let me know. If I decide to take a different path, you better believe it. If I don't communicate it to you, you have a right to fire me.
Right.
But if I don't lay out some sort of plan for you to then say yay or nay, then we're both jeopardizing each other's understanding of our expectation.
Right.
So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I wanted to put out.
I love it, and I think it's a good note to kind of end on and to dwell on, and I think it's a good re-entry back into the mindset that is unmanageables. So Robert Rossi, if you still remember,
I'm going to tell you this as far as a carry out. In order to be unmanageable, if you're out in the audience, what you have to do is you have to communicate back to us. You have to tell your friends about us. You have to tell people to come listen to us. If you're not doing that, then I'm going to take it that you're being selfish. It means you're holding unmanageables to yourself. And if you're selfish, I can't get paid. I can't get new clients through my door. So I need you guys to go out there every single day and spend a little time just being unmanageable.
That's awesome. I love it. And I'm looking forward to all the new conversations in the future. Alex, thank you very much for showing up every week, every Tuesday. Alex has bigger and better things she's moving on to.
No, she has bigger things. She doesn't have better things.
He said it.
She has better days, but not better things.
He said it. But thank you for everything. Absolutely. And Mason Karen, thank you for wearing those cool shades today. And everybody else, please, like Robert Rossi said, please share, like, comment, let us know how you're feeling, even if it sucks. Not so much. But we're here for y'all, and we want to share these experiences with you guys to help you get from that place you are now and start acting on some of your goals that you have lined out for yourself. So with all that being said, thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.